and welcome to what? Not another one. It is 2023 as we record, so Happy New Year to all of you.
Happy New Year. New Year, same absolute cluster shower of politics.
As always.
And we're
Yes.
5 days in.
Yeah, we're 5 days in, and US politics at least is already in a shambles, and the UK government has already requested that all students now study maths to the age of 18. There is going to be uproar in the streets. It cannot be allowed.
5 days in. We're 5 days in. Give it a week.
I like how Rishi Sunak's like, oh yeah, we're going to start 2023 off strong. We're going to force all students to now study math to the age of 18.
That would have tipped me over the edge.
He's just lost another wing of the Conservative Party. That's all he's done there.
Oh God.
It's
before we go forward, let's take a look back, shall we?
Good old 2022 provided us with plenty of content. Some amazing, some pretty sad. You know, it was a mixture, shall we say. I mean, obviously, the big thing I think that happened in 2022 was the war in Ukraine. I think that's obviously still ongoing. Another month and a bit until it's been a year since it started. I think that definitely was what set the premise for everything that happened last year. It's I mean, a bit of a stalemate at the moment, shall we say, in the war because of weather. Yeah.
There was when the war first happened, it was sort of there was a lot of it was in the news every day. It's still in the news a little bit, but less so than it was because the start. I remember it's crazy. You know, there's the Snake Island. You know, the Russian warship go bleep yourself. You know, which was incredible. It's still ongoing. I look up flight radar now and then just to see what's going on.
Well, they did that one about Santa, didn't they?
Yeah,
Santa's come to Ukraine.
Yeah, it was it's crazy that it's been going on for a year. I can't see an end in sight, really. I don't think either side is gonna give in. Obviously, the Donetsk region and the other region, Luhansk, have voted in inverted commas there, to be part of Russia now. I feel like that has been going on for a while down there. I think it's going to carry on in the Donbass, going on for a while. Yeah, it's crazy that's been nearly a year.
Nearly a year, and also it's like, thinking of moments from the war. I think one moment that stands out to me was that massive convoy outside of Kiev. Kiev, what do you say? When the Russians obviously first invaded, and they thought, right, we take Kiev, we cut off the head from the snake, as it were, to try and get rid of Zelensky. That was kind of their thinking, and then they didn't realize just how bad they were logistically. Their army was actually very poorly prepared, and they ended up having miles upon miles of equipment in old vans from like the 60s with no spare parts, no fuel, just lined up on the roadside, just open to be bombed by the Ukrainians. And it's like that for me is one of those key moments that stands out from early on in the war that kind of signified, well, this might actually be a long haul. This isn't going to be a quick win for Russia. And obviously, as we've seen throughout 2022, you had the massive pushback from Ukraine in the end in the northeast, in Kharkiv, and then you had obviously Kherson ended up being taken again as well. All sort of key moments that show you maybe as well Russia's not really got the military prowess that it suggests. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is still a very strong military. It's definitely one of those best ones in the world, but they were so poorly prepared. And I think this comes back. It reminds me of World War I, when you come back to old men sitting at home in Moscow thinking they know everything, but it's the young men that go to die. And they literally just sent them in with no real preparation, just saying, it'll be easy, you'll win, which is kind of the same thought process you had back in the 1940 to 1918.
I mean, it's the same with most wars, isn't it? You know, the young
Yeah.
people that are out there fighting and, you know, dying for their country. They just get told by some bloke who gets told by another bloke who sits in an office in a cushy job earning hundreds of £1,000s a year, sitting on their arse, saying, "Yeah, let's go on, just go shoot some people. You might die, but you know, it's your country." It's
I mean, you look at the 300,000 like young men as well who have just been called up,
Yeah.
who are going to be given 6 months worth of training and then sent to the front line.
Yeah,
Vladimir Putin's lost the plot, methinks.
It's I was going to say something that's completely just gone on my head.
We'll come back to it. The war in Ukraine, I think, definitely is the biggest highlight of 2022 politically, current affairs wise. Coming back to the UK, Liz Truss was outlasted by a lettuce. She's now the shortest reigning prime minister in history. At 45 days, was it?
I think in the end, the total count was 45 days.
Like, so we, going from something very sad and somber to something that's utterly hilarious but despairingly like awful simultaneously. Like the fact that the British political system came to that.
The UK had 3 prime ministers in a year, only one of which was actually elected by the public. This is what I think. Obviously, it's not going to happen anytime soon. I think Liz Truss was the closest we came to having an early general election. I think it's gone a little bit quiet now. Things have stable. Everything's more expensive, but you know, there's still part of that is the war in Ukraine. But I feel like they've used that excuse for most things that the Tories have done at the minute. You know, war in Ukraine, after effects of COVID, I feel like they're using it as a bit of an excuse. But I think the market stabilised after Trussonomics absolutely tanked it.
Because Boateng has a lot to answer for.
God, that was incredible. Well, what wild ride that was. So there's that, and I feel like Rishi Sunak was the best person to come in to stabilise the Conservative Party, and they know that. I feel like he's got now a year and a half. When's the next general election? 2024, 25?
January 2025, I think it is. It's not official, but it should be around then.
So he's got 2 years basically to, unless something happens in the meantime, which is highly likely. You know, he's not the most trustworthy of people.
I trust him more than some others in that party. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a reason he was elected, because he's centre right. He's not as extreme, shall we say, as other members of the Conservative Party in terms of economic views. As Chancellor, he was disliked by a lot of his own party because he had much more liberal policies towards the economy. Things that were actually compared to the time of Blair, for example. So he's not awful in any way, shape, or form. But I think the country in general is fed up with the Conservative government. I don't see how the Conservatives are going to, even in 2 years, which is a long time in politics, but I don't see how, without Labour somehow absolutely tanking and having some sort of awful occurrence for them, I don't see how they're going to overhaul over 20 points in the polls. Like, that is an extreme number to try and like change.
It is, but I'm also on the other side of that. You know, the polls can say what they want, but when it comes to the ballot box, I think people won't forget easily, especially people that have lost loved ones through COVID, won't let that slide so easily. But then, like say, 2 years is a long time in politics, and things can happen in those 2 years. It's going to be interesting this year, especially. It's going to be interesting to see what's next. You know, Rishi's laid out his 5-point plan on the NHS, on migrants. We'll see how it goes, but certainly, I think let the lettuce lead. Bring the lettuce back.
Well,
Just
I
put
think
it.
what was the other one? They did that recent. I can't. What was the other story now? They did a lettuce versus a leader again the other day. Who was it? I can't remember. They started doing one. I think was it with Oh, I can't remember. It's going to be a running joke. I can
think
see this coming back for every leader now.
looking back to Liz Truss, like she was just so out of her depth. It was incredible to see. Every interview she gave, she was like a deer in headlights. She just didn't know what to say, how to say it. She just stuck to the same script and you could tell it was a script. It wasn't a natural, oh yeah, I'm the prime minister, I know what's going on. It was, yes, now I will tell you this. I heard your question, but I will tell you this instead. Like, so robotic. And
she became Theresa May without brain cells.
She was Maybot 2.0, but with actual circuitry. Like, it was what an odd 45 days that was for the UK. It was just every morning you wake up to like BBC breaking news and think, oh God, what has happened?
Do you
What
remember
has happened now?
those morning headlines when Rishi Sunak, it was like, and he's done it. He's surpassed her 45 days. And those are the morning headlines. Like,
Yeah.
that is what one morning the British press actually dedicated their front pages to the fact that Liz Truss had been outlasted by the next prime minister. Like, that is, I think, when it comes to the UK, that was the big political thing of the year.
I've had indigestion that's lasted longer. Like, it's
Oh, I've just eaten. Thank you.
remember Gaviscon, kids.
But yeah, I think that was the big thing in the UK, and I think you can safely say that couple that with the living crisis and etc. and everything, and it's just one big, as you put it, cluster thingy. But then I think we also ought to cross the pond. We had some things happen this year across in the US of A. Not least Donald Trump absolutely tanking the Republicans. At least in the Senate, and that is continued into 2023 as well.
Yeah, it's chaos at the minute. They're just all fighting each other.
I think they described it as the Republicans split so badly that they're now stagnating American politics because they're trying to elect a new Speaker of the House in the Senate. Sorry, a Speaker of the House. I got that wrong. And the Republican majority leader who's running for it isn't even the favorite for it. His own party is split over whether they want him. It's the further sort of more extreme Republicans are voting against him. He's either going to somehow have to get Democrats on side of this rate, or the Democrat House Speaker is going to win. And the thing is, they've had 6 votes already, and no one's been elected. And that signifies everything that's happened over the last 6 years of American politics.
It's just chaos over there. Like, you got Matt Getz and Lauren Boebert like fighting each other. Marjorie Taylor Greene is coming out and having a go at them and slating them for things. All the while, America's sat there like, what's going on? Like, who's running the country? Like,
I find it funny as well that all these more extreme Republicans who are like die-hard Trump supporters won't support him, but Donald Trump actually does support him and has asked everyone to vote for him.
Yeah, I was looking on, but weirdly, as I was on Truth Social, I've downloaded it.
Oh my God!
To see what's going on
Down the rabbit hole.
And Trump even though he was saying vote for McCarthy, he was like having a go at McCarthy's wife, or like in the same post. I was like, the man's brain just works in a different way. It's incredible, and I
hope he dedicates his body to science when he dies.
Oh God, imagine. See, find those bone spurs that kept him out of Vietnam. It's just a chaotic time in the US. And it has been since January the 6th. It's been a mad 2 years.
I think
it's 2 years tomorrow. Well,
Is it 2 years tomorrow?
2 years tomorrow when we're recording this.
The years are passing by way too quickly. It's like, oh, it was only just yesterday I was graduating my undergrad. This year has been so quick, so hectic,
No,
honestly.
it's been
But
crazy.
yeah, we've got I'm trying to think now. I think that is the big story, I guess, from the US this year, and I think there are plenty of the global stories. Argentina won the World Cup.
The other thing for the US was when Roe v. Wade got overturned,
Oh, that as well. I completely
which
forgot
was
about that.
huge. Yeah,
That was massive. Yeah, that's in a way that's probably incredibly scary for what is supposed to be the most powerful country on earth.
yeah, scary for a lot
And
of people.
the archetypical Western democracy, as it were, has well, it was a democratic vote, but what a democratic vote by members of the Supreme Court, not by the people.
Yeah,
So
that I think is sort of the epitome of how backwards the US is. In that, it is a controversial. It's a very religious country in areas. It's a controversial subject, but I don't understand how it is.
mm,
You can't. Some white bloke in Washington shouldn't be able to tell a white woman in California or any woman across the US what to do with their body.
mm,
It's your body. How does that work? And you've got people traveling across state borders now to try and get
yeah,
the treatment they need.
which they've made that illegal technically in multiple states, where it
Yeah,
is that if you cross the borders to get the treatment, then you're breaking the law, as it were.
yeah.
People are having to try and do it secretly.
Which is gonna cause more health problems, more health issues. If you can't do it safely,
Yeah,
people are gonna do it unsafely and cause so much more problems.
and it's going to create even more division in what is a very, as we called it in the last episode, I think, a divided United States of America. Like,
Yeah.
the oxymoron to say divided and united, but they it's a country that is slowly breaking apart, and this is why we need that sort of support for Ukraine from the US to continue, because if that falters with the way that they are already going, it's just playing into Putin and Xi Jinping's hands, as it were, on the geopolitical stage.
Mm.
Um,
It's strange, isn't it? It is essentially World War III by proxy. The UK
yeah,
sending aid to Ukraine, the US is sending aid and weapons to Ukraine.
it's Cold War
Everyone's yeah,
with proxy wars. So it's
it,
like the Cold War again, with the Russians and Americans supporting countries in Central Africa and in Asia, um, all over again. It's
mm,
like the Berlin Wall came down, but did the Cold War really end? Yeah, hostilities went back to the lowest level they've probably ever seen, but it's just coming back again. I mean, Vladimir Putin coming into power in 2001, I think it was. Um, he was a member of the old guard, and it's sort of, you
mm.
can see the way he's built the country up in Russia back from then to the point where it is now, that he's pining for the Cold War to return. And you know what's scary? I've just watched the third season of Jack Ryan on Amazon Prime,
Mm.
and it follows. It scares the out of me, considering everything we just had happen this year, that they've filmed this prior to this year. Is that it follows, Jack Ryan finding out about an old Russian plan to build a nuclear bomb that is undetectable, and then a coup within Russia and trying to start World War III and everything. And I'm just like, I don't like this. It's too realistic. Like, it
Just,
just you know. So it's yeah. I think those are some of the biggest moments definitely this year. I'm trying to think what else has happened now across the world.
it seems like a million years ago in the UK. I'm going back to the UK, but there's Partygate in April, the Partygate fines, which was the beginning of the end.
That feels so long ago. I thought
It
that was the year
feels
before.
so long ago. Yeah, it was. So the actual fines, the first time a sitting prime minister had been found to have broken the law, and he's still being investigated for misleading Parliament.
Isn't he going to be not sentenced, but they're going to give him the finding or whatever, Isn't that this month or next month even? I think it is.
Imagine, I mean, what happened to Sue Gray's report? That was supposed to come out in full, but did that ever come out in full?
Oh, I think it came out redacted, didn't it?
Yeah.
It came out redacted, and it didn't really have any content damning the government in any way. It was very much just this happened.
Yeah, it feels so long ago. There's Tractor Gate with Neil Parish, which was that was just chaos. Well, I don't understand. I really don't understand.
Oh god. Oh, big thing in from where I'm from. Sweden joined NATO and Finland. Massive shift
that's
geopolitically
huge, yeah.
in Europe. Yeah, I can safely say it's scary. My younger sister got her call-up papers the other day.
Oh wow.
As you do for your conscription.
Have you done yours?
I didn't have Swedish citizenship at the time.
Oh yeah, here he goes. Bone Spurs Trump over here.
To be fair, I do think that if I was not in uni, I might have actually had a call up after getting it, but they don't call up enough people, as it were. However, they are increasing the numbers, so they currently call up 30,000 in Sweden.
Wow.
30,000 18-year-olds, but I think they're increasing it to 50,000 from this year or next year. But Finland, yeah, those are. Finland is even more strict. Like in Sweden, it's like 6 months you do. I think in Finland, it's at least a year you have to do as conscription, if not longer.
Yeah, Finland joins huge, isn't it? Because obviously they border Russia. Like,
no. Well, I mean, explain the geopolitics of it. Like Finland obviously have a land border. Both countries have deep history with Russia. I mean, Finland, let's be honest, is one of the newest nations in Europe because it only existed since early 20th century, then became part of Russia again, and then sort of came back to being its own country in the aftermath of World War II, still with some Russian control and all. You know, it's a bit complicated to describe, but that's kind of how it was. It used to be the battleground between Sweden and Russia. It used to be part of the Swedish Empire and part of the Russian Empire. So, you know, it likes Sweden more, though, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's massive for Europe. I mean, NATO, obviously. Strategically, it definitely sends a message again to Putin following his invasion of Ukraine, or special military operation, as he likes to call it. And yeah, the future is interesting for Europe militarily, because you've got NATO and you've also got the plans that have been sort of touted for a while, but I think this year have been mentioned a bit more by Macron for the EU, because he wants a European army. He'd be very much happy to see the EU become more than just an economic bloc, but to also have that, because they do have within the EU. What it's called now exactly, but the agreement basically for joining the EU, there is a shared military responsibility, but it's very limited. I mean, if you're part of the EU, you're probably part of NATO anyway. But he wants to make the military a larger part of the EU now as well, and make as it were, a European army. Because he wants to lose. He doesn't want to have to be so heavily reliant upon the US.
I don't think that's going to happen. Somehow.
No, I have a feeling he'd be. It would be blocked probably by Germany, to be honest. Yeah.
The other big thing that happened in the UK, we had the Platty Jubes, and then we had the Queenie Funes.
Oh no!
No! I'm sorry. I'm sorry for myself for saying that. Yeah, so Platinum Jubilee was a big celebration of 70 years of the Queen's reign, and then September she died, and there was obviously the only monarch that most people in the UK and the world have ever known for the UK, and now we've got King Charles in Charlie Boy 3. It's going to be
the same way as the first two.
Yeah, hopefully not. It's an interesting time in the royal family. You know, this year we'll see what happens. You know, Charles has been quite outspoken on a lot of issues in the past. He was talking about climate change and stuff last year, which was another big story ongoing. Just Stop Oil, gluing themselves to roads, etc. Attacking paintings, that sort of stuff. It was a big year for that. But yeah, interesting times for the royal family. I think Harry has come out today and said that his brother physically attacked him.
Yeah, his new book is going to cause issues.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, Harry is obviously the younger one, and he grew up without his mum, and his mum was hounded and hounded and hounded by the press to the point where essentially caused her death. And
It's not the media's finest moment.
No, definitely not. And for him to come out and say, "Look, stop hounding my wife, otherwise, I can see it going the same way." Because why would you not protect your wife if your family aren't protecting you and your wife? I don't blame him, to be honest.
Well, the king has to deal with that, and he also has to deal with his brother, who is still smothered in all the Epstein debacle.
Not Edward. We should point that out.
No,
not Edward. The other brother.
The other one. Who's also going to be forced to take a step back from royal duties because of his history, as it were.
It's like Shaun of the Dead, isn't it? Instead of going to the Winchester to wait for it all to blow over, let's go to a Pizza Express in Woking and wait for it all to blow over.
Oh God! Oh, and he doesn't sweat. What an interview! And whoever his PR team is, I hope he fired them immediately because they threw him in the wrong end of the pool. Oh my! He should have been in the kids' paddling pool rather than deep end where everyone's diving.
I think
we'll talk about car crashes.
Well, that wasn't even last year, was it? That was the year before.
Oh God!
Yeah, 2022 was such a weird year. It was it was an alright year in some respects. But there's so much just sort of bubbling away all through the year. The World Cup, everyone got into it, I think, in the end, even with the biggest of reservations about it. Yeah. And still issues with Qatar and how it came about, and workers' rights, that sort of stuff. That was the end of the year. That was, everyone was like, "Yeah, England, go for it." Even I got into it in the end reluctantly, but when it's on, I tell you what, the biggest story of early this year is the 9 dart finishers in the dart final.
That was ridiculous.
That was incredible.
If you're not a darts fan, apologies, but that was, even if you're not a fan of darts, that the ability to do that, I can't believe what I witnessed when I saw that on TV. That was something else.
I love the arrows. I love the arrows. Michael Smith, well done. Fantastic job. Starting the year off well.
Showing us how sports should be done.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. The commentary as well was incredible.
Even they couldn't believe it. They were like,
I can't speak. I can't speak.
Oh God. No, it was yeah. Sports in general was amazing around the world. Can't say that England particularly did well in any sport off the top of my head, except for the women's Euros.
Oh, that was incredible.
What a tournament.
That was the epitome of football. It was incredible. It was, the atmosphere was so great. I went to see Iceland v France in Rotherham, and it was incredible. What a game. We were down with the guys with the drums. It was fantastic.
The thunderclap as well there.
We got hammered in Rotherham Town Centre beforehand with all the Iceland fans.
As you do.
There was a European supermarket with all the cheap Polish beers and stuff in. So, and in the centre, so everyone's just getting in and out of there. It was the hottest day of the year, and rather than drinking water to stay hydrated, everyone just drank beer. And what a day! The whole tournament, everyone said the atmosphere was just so nice. It was incredible hearing the song, normal football chants, but in a slightly higher octave. And it was just such a great atmosphere.
I think it's what it shows as well is I mean, in my family, we've watched women's football ever since the World Cup in Canada. I think it was. But I think in general now, women's football has got to a point where it's considered in the UK to be one of the major sporting sort of events of the year on the calendar to watch. I mean, the next World Cup, like it's gonna be amazing just to see what the viewing figures are, because I fully expect. I know it's not in the country in the UK, but I fully expect still that like after this last summer, people are going to be wanting to see our lionesses, go on and fight for the World Cup title.
Yeah, I think having it in the UK really brought it home.
Yeah,
like the stadiums were packed. The final was what the highest attendance at a Euro, I think, final
ever,
which is just incredible. And I think it really showed to people that this is football. This isn't women's football. This is football. That's all. That's all you need to know.
I mean, the one clip I do remember though was the, I think it was Austria versus, I can't remember now. I forgot who they played. They were playing someone, and the Austrian keeper had an absolute mare. Went to just kick a ball long, smacked it off the forward, and it went past her in the goal. one of those absolute shit shows, honestly. But yeah, I think that was one of the big months of the summer for me, especially one of the biggest parts of the sporting calendar. It did come home, just not where anyone I think expected it a few years ago it would have been coming home.
Yeah.
And literally got to be at home as well.
Oh, what a year.
But predictions 2023, new year, new world. What we're saying?
I think it's more of the same. I genuinely think the world is just so chaotic at the minute that it's just gonna keep going, and it's just gonna be absolute madness again. The world is on fire, both metaphorically and literally on fire. 2022 was the hottest year on record for the UK. There's no snow in the Alps. The world is just on fire, and I think let's just try and get through another year.
We love content, but simultaneously, I would like the war in Ukraine to end. I would like British politics to make sense. I would like Donald Trump to, not be elected leadership candidate for the Republicans, because I have a feeling that if he does, American politics will have a complete meltdown beyond what they're already doing right now. Yeah. But simultaneously, I also hope Biden doesn't run again, because that might also tip it over the edge. Yeah, and I just genuinely, I mean, I can't really. Again, I actually probably can't really predict the year, but I would hope it's a year that is joyous and makes more sense than last year, where we don't start comparing our leaders with lettuce.
My big bold prediction is that the UK will have another prime minister before the end of the year.
What? Not another one? Honestly, yeah, and well, who knows? But I highly doubt there will be. But it could always be a general election. Ooh. But I think that's where we'll leave it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of What Not Another One. Happy New Year again to everyone, and yeah, we'll be back next week with a more normal episode talking about a specific topic.
Yeah,
but that was our 2023 roundup.
Hope your 2023 is as good as that leg of darts in the darts final. Van Gerwen and Smith both on a 9-darter. Nothing can ever top that. The year's over as far as I'm concerned.
2023 doesn't matter. We're still stuck on that date in 2022. Take me back.
It was the 3rd of January, so it was 2023. Off to a great start.
Okay, 2023 is off to a great start.